about a little bit about self-sabotage and what that looks like, how that can show up, and then also, yeah, how to respond or contemplate or interact with that. So welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. Happy Tuesday. Okay, so this is something that is a little bit alive in the field right now, and I just want to speak to it because what I've noticed, something that happens in people and also in myself, is that sometimes if there's a lot of resistance or fears, we try to self-sabotage things. So maybe we have a lot of anxiety about something, and then we almost like try to make it not work out, and like we're fighting against it and we're trying so hard, and because we have a lot of anxiety or a lot of fear. And so this is something that can come up when we want to either deepen into an ability to trust more, or if we want to expand our capacity, or we want to kind of grow and expand. And so a lot of times we can be faced with situations that can be uncomfortable. Now, there's a difference between it being, a resistance because of a fear, because we want to expand, or it's like totally just shutting us down because it doesn't feel safe. And sometimes we're just not ready for that expansion, right? And so it's like we need more time to process it. And so we're not ready to like step into that space. And so we can begin to recognize this of like, is this an edge that feels safe to lean into? Or is this an edge that I'm not ready to step into, but I know there's some more work for me to do around this in my own body, in cultivating the safety and trusting. And so this is so important in life, in relationships, in business, in growth, in how we can really expand, and come into a deeper place of trust in ourselves and in spirit and in the way we're led and we're navigated. And so, this can show up in a lot of ways. It can show up, in situations, and especially if we've experienced trauma in ourselves and we are kind of activated by a certain situation, then it can, the trauma can show up, and we may or may not be ready to like lean into that and lean into the uncomfortable and say, okay, I'm going to trust it this time, even though last time like it was traumatizing me, or I have a lot of anxiety around this, but I can't, it seems to be flowing, so I have to trust it, right? And so there's a lot here. There's a lot of layers here, that we could really go into. And I want to hear how this resonates and your insights, because I would love to expand on this in the different layers. And so I just want to hear like how it shows up for you, how you notice its resistance, how you notice it's an edge. But what happens is when we feel this, right, it's like we really want to just continue to come back into our body, right, into our safe space, whether that's outside of our body or in our body. Maybe it's our bed or a place in nature or our pet, or maybe it's in our heart or some other place in our body. We can continue to come back to that place of safety, that place of comfort. But we really want to cultivate a deeper awareness within our body, because oftentimes when we feel fears or anxieties or resistance, so resistance is a sign of like actually like the fight response in the nervous system. So it could be the nervous system shutting down, as a fear response. And so we can just be aware of this. And of course, like I said, sometimes it's safe to go into it and sometimes it's not. But as we continue to cultivate our relationship with our own body and actually being in our body, being grounded, being in a place of neutrality, feeling safe, right? We're less in our mind. And so we can see what is a fear, and what's like, the illusion of the fear, or what's just like it's our mental chatter trying to get in our way. Or we can actually just be rooted in our body and be like, okay, this is an edge and it's really uncomfortable, but like I trust that this is the path that I'm being guided on. And so this can take years and years to really fully develop this. So you don't have to get it right perfectly right away or even after years. This is a skill, and we're going to constantly be given opportunities to continue to expand into this space, right? And then we might be activated and triggered, and then it might, bring up some more stuff to move into the deeper layers, right? So this is the growth and the journey and the evolution of being a human, and it continuing to expand our consciousness, expand our awareness, and be more rooted in our body, and also expand our capacity. And this supports us in our own selves, in our own nervous system, in our own life. For like when we go into a chaotic situation, we actually like can remain calm, right? We don't take on that energy, or we're not triggered by that energy. Or in our family relationships, in our personal relationships, and our friendships, in our co-working relationships with our clients, right? So the more we can expand our capacity, the more we really understand our own nervous system. And then also learning to navigate the energy of other people. There's a lot of chaos happening in the world right now. And so there's a lot of people, if they're not rooted in their body, if you're not rooted in your body, maybe you do feel a lot of the collective emotions and a lot of anxiety, and so I really wanted to bring in the invitation to bring it back in. Bring yourself into your body, root yourself into the earth. We did grounding last week. We did a beautiful grounding practice. And, I'm just going to continue to bring in these practices. All the work I do is rooted in the soma, in the somatics, in the body, being in the body. Because I spent most of my life, the first, I want to say almost like 30 years of my life, maybe not when I was little, but like maybe between my teenage years and when I was like about 30, in my head, like not really grounded, not really rooted in my body. And of course, when I went in nature, like maybe I was more present and in my body, but generally I was in my head. I was constantly like thinking of things. I remember being on a backpacking trip, my first backpacking trip, and being like thinking about my school schedule for the next semester and like all of these other things like going on in my mind. And then I remember the shift that happened, like a month or two later after that, after really focusing on like self-care and embodiment and stuff. And then I noticed like being in nature and being fully present, and it was a really beautiful shift of like, wow, okay, I'm here. I'm here with the forest. I'm here with the trees. I'm not thinking about anything. And it was like a breakthrough moment for me of like, wow, you're actually here for the first time. You're not in your mind thinking about the gazillion things that are constantly going on in your brain. Right? So it's like we practice and we continue to practice, and find really peace. This brings us to peace inside of ourselves when we can be rooted in our body, connected with our body, with our breath. Then it brings a level of peace and calmness inside. And so the invitation is that if there's the resistance and the fears and all of that coming up, we're not pushing it away. We're not bypassing it. We're not saying like it's not true. What we're doing is we're bringing ourselves back into our body, into the sensations, rooting ourselves, connecting with the earth, connecting with our place of safety, and allowing that to take up space. And then if it's still like something that's coming up, right, it's something deeper to be worked through, but sometimes it just kind of falls away, right? Because it is just like in the mind, it's like sometimes the little thoughts of like doubt or things like that can honestly just be snapped away because there's so much of an illusion. But then it's like we continue to move through the deeper layers, like where's really the fear rooted? So this is a huge topic. This can take many, many years of really, really practicing with the self in the body, in the embodiment, and working through the layers, especially if there is a lot of trauma, or there's not as much spaciousness or there's distractions. And so I just want to extend the invitation of like, have compassion with yourself and your process. And it's okay. There's no rush. There's nowhere to get to. Just continuing to really come back inside and listening. And if you want any support with this, I do offer mentorship. I have space for 2 people to really go deeper into this and have full support and be able to be held in a space of non judgment and a space of safety where they can really soften. So if that's for you, you can send me a DM. Um, it's a high level mentorship. Otherwise, I am here every week to go live with you, to answer your questions, to be with you. And I hope to bring this to Zoom soon so I can have people join the calls with me, and then we can do an interact and then stream it live to the Facebook group. So stay tuned for that. That's probably coming, but for now, just join me here every Tuesday or catch the replay. Drop your comments. I really want this group, the Sanctuary for Trauma Awareness, to be a co-creation. So yeah, it's a place for you to be seen and witnessed. Thank you so much for being here, and have a beautiful Tuesday, and I'll see you next week.